Okay. Hello, everyone. This is SDGs class, and today we have a special guest and a special lecture by Professor Syed Iftekhar. He is from Griffith University, Australia. Professor Iftekhar is an environmental economist. He has a very brilliant background in environmental and resource economics. He has done several projects. He taught and researched on these topics. And he got, over millions of Australian dollar grants from different organizations, institutions, and companies related to this topic. And today we invited him and he came to Japan. He kindly accepted our invitation for coming to Tokai University. And during this period, he accepted our invitation to give a lecture related to water issues and role of water in having sustainable cities and societies, which is a topic related to SDGs, especially to SDG 6 and 11, and also indirectly related to several of other SDGs. So it's a pleasure to have Professor Syed, and I would like to invite him for having his lecture. Yes, please. Just yeah. Yes, please. If you want to use mic, if not, is also. You can use this pointer as well.
This one go as well.
Yeah, it goes
on this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is it on? Thank you. Is it on?
Yeah.
It's working.
Come closer.
Thank you very.
Maybe you go without mic. It's working.
Now it's
yeah.
Now it's working.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Farhad, for your nice introduction. And as Farhad said, I'm Saeed. I teach and do research at Griffith University in Australia mainly on environmental economics, agricultural economics, and applied economics. So one of my course is on sustainable development goals, especially I teach at MBA students. So regarding this lecture, I'm very much looking forward to it. I usually do not have as many students as you are now here in my class, so I'm very excited to see so many. Regarding my speech, and if I'm going too fast or if you have any difficulty in understanding, please let me know, raise your hand. I'm happy to take questions at any point to clarify, okay? Feel free to raise your voice. So as you can see from the topic here in the slides, I'm going to talk about water-sensitive urban designs and how this concept could be helpful in sustainable cities and communities. Okay, so that's the basic idea. But before I do that, I would like to start from a very broad kind of conceptual framing, which is regarding sustainable development. So if you look from outside of a space, right, to the Earth, so it's like a blue planet. But then that means that we have a planetary boundary, right? So what are the resources that we can extract from based on what we have within the Earth, correct? So now the role that we play, like humans as well as organisms, is we consume resources from the Earth, correct? So we have our natural environment, which is our Earth, you can consider it. But then you have producers. So producers could be somebody. Can you give me an example of like what do you mean here by producers who extract raw materials from the earth or use? So that could be, for example, like industries, right? So when we have raw material industry, so we extract lots of resources. Agriculture would be a major example of producers, right? So we extract, we use soils, and we plant, we grow plants, and etc. So we have the producers who have these, who utilize raw materials from the natural system. But then who are the consumers? Consumers are us, right? We can be both producer as well as consumers. For example, if you take a farmer, they are producing like fruits and crops, etc. But they are also consuming what? Consuming fertilizer. They are also consuming food, what they are consuming also from the market. So we have main two groups, producers and consumers. Those are connected through goods and services that we consume. What do we have? Do we consume everything that we produce? No, right? We have lots of waste, correct? Whenever we produce, whenever we consume, we also generate lots of waste. So that's our residuals, correct? So that's the waste materials. And this happens during the production process as well as during the consumption process, right? So when we eat something, we also have a food waste, correct? So that's a residual here. What do? We discharge, right? We throw it in the bin, and then from the bin, either it goes to a landfill or it goes to some other places, correct? So then it goes back to the natural environment again as a waste, right? And it happens from residuals from producers, production goods, as well as consumed goods as well. So both cases we have discharge. So you can see that the problem is that here we are extracting raw materials from the earth, from the natural environment. Then we are processing it, but then we are throwing out lots of residuals, and that causing lots of environmental problems, right? So what do? Usually we try to recycle, correct? We try to recycle as much as possible, but it is still not fully like compatible. In a sense, we do not recycle the full amount. So the question is that we recycle during the production cycle as well as the consumption cycle, but still we have lots of leftover residuals, and that is a major source of environmental pollution, environmental decline, and this sustainable environmental management. Okay. So that's the whole idea behind, okay, why do we need a sustainable development and what do we mean by this? Because we are at the moment, it's unsustainable. So the question is, how do we manage our resources? How do we utilize our resources in a more sustainable manner? Does this graph make sense to you? Yeah. Okay. So if you, and this slide probably would be shared later, but if you go to the website and you will find lots of indicators of environmental depletion. Okay, and hopefully you have covered in other courses or classes that how the natural environment, how the human conditions are, many cases is actually depleting. Okay, it's growing worse. All right, so if we have time later, we can come back to these and check these links. But I want to go talk a bit more about sustainable development goals. And hopefully we have covered the origin of sustainable development goals, etc. Yeah, they know about it, yes. So you know that there is a target by 2030 on achieving some certain targets with respect to sustainable development goals. Can you tell me how many sustainable development goals are there? 17, right? 17. Yes, that is true. Because it came originally from Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. Okay. And in that assessment, they actually have a very narrow set of development targets. In the Sustainable Development Goals, they have expanded it to 17. Okay. And one or two of them are related to sustainable cities and communities, which I'll talk a bit more. But before that, I want to take you through these indicators. So these are the 17 goals. So starting from no poverty to partnership for the goals, right? So that's number 17. And again, like if you go to this link, you'll be able to find a progress and status, current status of the achievements by different countries. So before I show you some snapshots of these targets, what do you think, how is Japan doing in terms of achieving all these goals? What's your impression? Anyone? Are they on track to meeting these goals by 2030, or there is a significant delay or challenges? Yeah, go ahead, please.
They asked to some cars makers to make more number of electric cars increasing.
Yes, yes, that's a very good example. Yeah, yeah. Any other example that you are aware of? Yeah, please.
During the COVID-19, the government sent some money to the people in Japan to help to get rid of the poor situation.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yes. Anything else? Okay, let's have a look at few indicators. I do not have time to go through all 17, but you can recognize, right? So the Japan and how it's doing. So this is about SDG 1, so no poverty. Okay, and you can see green means that SDG already has achieved countries. Okay, and then if you scroll down, then yellow means challenges remain. Like there is still challenges remain to achieve the SDG targets. Remember, the target is by 2030, which is not far. Yeah. By the time you will go into the job, it will be 2030 or even like halfway through your jobs. So, but then you see that the very red color is major challenges remain. So first one is no poverty. What do you think? Which color is Japan is? Yellow. So that means still there are some challenges remain, right? Actually, it is not unique to Japan. You can see that many countries are facing these challenges, substantial challenges. So these kind of data on indicators are quite helpful sometimes just to have as a discussion, right? Okay, what's going on, what we're doing, etc. So this is for sustainable goal 1, no poverty. I especially wanted to look at a few goals related to the cities, etc. For example, clean water and sanitation. Again, we can see specifically Japan, it says challenges remain. Okay, now you might wonder how do they come up with these colors, right? Okay, how do they do these scores? So when you go to the website, if you have not done before, is you see they have a list of indicators. So I think I can point this one. Okay, shows up. So you can see these are indicators. Okay, so all these indicators are coming as a scores are coming to this overall score related to clean water and sanitation. So for example, population using at least basic drinking water, that's all green, which is very good. Yeah. Then, and that arrow is going up, green arrow is going up means like it's doing much better. Okay, it's going actually progressing. But then population using at least basic sanitation services, it is green, like the condition is good, but condition is stable, like it has not going up, improved. But then you can see freshwater withdrawal and scarce water consumption. These are actually orange or yellow. So you can see that why in some indicators, the country is doing really well. In some other indicators, it's not. Okay, so it's a balanced score. And it's not just like Japan, right? It's all over. I am from Australia. You can see Australia as well. Australia is actually worse than Japan in this case. So that tells a story, right? We see all these in high income countries, etc. But in many cases, actually, the society at a societal level, we have a lot more challenges. We have a lot more things to do. The second one is affordable and clean energy. And your example with the EVs, that's a relevant one for this particular sustainable development goal. That is SDG 7. Again, you can see that significant challenges remain. Yeah. So one of them, you can see at the bottom is the red dot is renewable energy share in total final energy consumption. And Farhad is an expert on energy economics. He might agree or disagree with this statement here, but more or less that's the condition. That's the global data. When you put in the global data index, this is how it looks like. Okay. Again, you can see that many countries are actually not doing so well. So as a global level, we have a lot more to do. Sustainable cities and communities. So this is where we have still challenges remain. And then you can, but then you have some green scores. For example, proportion of urban population living in slums. That means that lower proportion of people are living in Japan. So that's actually a green dot as well as a green arrow, which is good. Then you have annual mean concentration of particulate matter of less than 2.5 microns in diameter. So that's also pretty good, like pollution level. What is going down is population with rent overburden. Okay, so that's related to people who are living in cities and urban areas, and they're actually facing lots of pressure. So that's not good. And proportion of population with access to points of interest within a 15-minute walk, that's quite good. So again, like you can see that there are challenges remain, right? So if I have picked up a few which are related to urban areas, cities, etc. So we can see that lots of things that we probably need to do. Before I go into a specific topic on water management, etc., do you have any observation on any of this data that we have seen here? Has it come as a striking to you that Japan is doing either so well or doing not so well? Like, does it match with your perception? Yeah.
So I have one question. So the one that you showed, for example, for poverty.
Yep.
So we have seen that China was green and Japan is yellow. So is it, I mean, this evaluation used a unified definition of poverty or country level definition of poverty?
Yeah, there is a lots of like standardization process, but they, like with the poverty, they have these head count ratios, they have this income, like how many people are living, but often these data is supplied by the country National Statistics Bureau. So in that sense, there might be possibility of some discrepancies in reporting. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other question? So what do you think of this observation here is that, because this is also common in Australia, is the population with rent overburden. In Australia also, we are facing lots of like housing crisis and rent increase. Is that something you also face as a student or as a general population? Like, is the renting a property is too expensive, like compared to your affordability?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, in Japan it's also high, but it so much depends on the area. In cities, in large cities, I mean, significant part of the salary is spending on housing. But when going to smaller cities or rural areas, this percentage is reduced.
This percentage is reduced. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think they are looking at the national average here, so that's why it's homogenization. Yes. Okay. So given this environmental changes, and especially in the urban areas, one of the thing is we are interested, and this is something related to my research interest and research project, is water sensitive urban designs or water management, okay, in the urban areas. Now you might wonder, how is it related to economics? Okay, and that could be a valid question, but this is about management. How do we manage our natural resource? And economics is one of the instrument, economic tools and policies, right? So just to give you a background of the problem first, and then we'll go into more details regarding how do we tackle and manage it. And I will bring some examples from Australia. Okay, that's where my work experience is. So as you know, in many places around the world is facing rapid urbanization. That means that the area, like the concrete area or hard surface, is increasing gradually. So what is the problem? That problem is that when there is a rainfall, okay, and then the water just flows on the concrete. It does not like precipitate. It does not go under the ground. So, and that causes serious problem in the natural waterways, rivers, canals, etc. Okay. So this is sometimes is called as a non-point source pollution. That means that we are causing lots of pollution in the surrounding waterways and riverways. So initially, the idea of the water agencies was that we need to get this water out from the cities as quickly as possible, okay, because it is hazardous to people's health. So, but that means that there's a lots of pressure on the neighboring waterways. So all these urban ecosystem, the freshwater urban ecosystem, they actually cause decline. There is a depletion. So for example, in the US, in Australia, in many places, these waterways got blocked or got dried up. So nowadays, water utilities and agencies, they have recognized that just removing surface water, stormwater as quickly as possible is not the best solution. We need to have some other ways to manage this water resource. Okay. So here is the basic idea. So if you look on the left hand side, so let's say that we have a forest area, okay, vegetated area. So what happens is that when we have precipitation, when you have rainfall, so rain comes here, it stays in these places quite a lot more, and that means there is infiltration. The water goes underground. So that means that we have a lot more water on the underground, as well as there is less soil pollution. Okay, soil does not go erode. But on the other hand, if we do not have this vegetation, so we have only like concrete and we only have a hard surface, what happens is that when you have the rainfall, it comes down, it flows rapidly, and it takes the soils with it. Okay, so that means there's lots of pollution. And it actually, in this case, it is affecting the local waterway. Okay. So the challenge or the question is then, how do we bring the nature into these city areas? So that's the basic principle of water sensitive urban design. Okay. Is this concept clear to you? Like, what is the problem currently we have? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, feel free to ask me any question if it's not clear. So recognizing these limitations of this centralized approach of moving water as quickly as possible, now people and water utilities in various places, including in the US, in Australia, as well as in Japan, they are investigating the feasibility of water sensitive urban design. Okay. And this is a philosophy, this is a concept that used to minimize the hydrological impact, okay, and on this urban development. This has been, as I said, this has been applied in various places such as Australia, Germany, United States, UK, and New Zealand. This is similar. This concept is known by various names, but it is similar in ideas. For example, in the US, it is known as low impact development, and both US and the New Zealand. In UK, it is known as Sustainable Urban Drainage System. In Singapore, it is known as ABC, Active, Clean and Beautiful Water. What do you think is known in Japan? Which concept? What is it known by? It is known by well-balanced hydrological system. So that's the similar concept. Okay. So how does it work? As I shown before in another graphics, we have the precipitation, but then the idea is that how can we bring the nature within the city? That means how can we encourage stormwater reuse, recycle water consumption, or then wastewater reuse? How do we manage the runoff? How do we manage the wastewater discharge? How do we treat stormwater? And how do we manage the infiltration? These are all part of integrated cycle of water sensitive design. Okay. And there are various tools to manage these kind of or implement this kind of design. So what I will do, I'll show you some photos. They are from Australian context, but what I will ask you is to that whether you have seen something similar in Japan, or maybe which could be in Tokyo in some other places. Okay. All right. So, and these are, by the way, these examples are all here, but I have some photos as well. Urban lake and water bodies, that should be pretty common. I'm not talking about in rural areas, I'm talking about within an urban area. Do you have you seen anything similar? Urban lake and water bodies? There are many. There should be many, yes. Have you ever thought about their role, like what kind of role they perform in an urban environment? What's their role? What kind of services they provide? What do we get from them? What kind of benefits do we get from them? Yes, please.
Some prepare to the lack of water.
If there is a lack of water, then you can use the water bodies. Is that
I'm not sure.
okay? What else? They should be easy. Like, okay, is there any fish inside that lake? Any animals? Any bird? Imagine any lake, any water body that you're most familiar with. Yes, please.
In my country, the lake in the city main is like landscape. People could walk around.
Fantastic.
Or add some fish, colorful fish.
Yes.
People could maybe feed the fish.
Yes.
As landscape.
Fantastic. Yes. That's the recreational benefit. Yes.
I think that's just the kind of how to say that. Maybe have some benefit, but I'm not sure because there are many lakes in my country.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Japan, it's also existing. So I expect the students start. But Japanese garden and having a pond in a garden is very common in different cities, even in the cities. I mean, Japanese always try to keep it.
Yes.
So it gives satisfaction and enhance our utility. Yeah.
Exactly. So you'll see the benefits are definitely recreational benefit, like people walk around the lake, maybe they are a morning and evening walk. It looks good if it is well maintained, which means that people get aesthetics benefit, like it looks good. Then sometimes it helps in protecting biodiversity. Okay. Sometimes it also could be a water source, that's for sure. And it could be also help in managing the water flow. Okay, so these are different kinds of benefits of these. How about urban creeks? have you come across like very small creeks inside a city area or inside a development area? Yes, yes. They sometimes look nice as well, right? If it is part of the natural landscape. Yeah. This one is a bit technical. You may not be able to notice it. So this is when you have some engineering solutions for stormwater management. So that's where you have some installations inside and it treats or filters the pollutants, okay, from stormwater. And how about green space like natural parks? That should be plenty, like as you said, natural gardens, etc. So you have also this like impact on the urban heat, for example, like on the weather, temperature. So that's also quite often important. So having a certain percentage of green space in a city is quite mandatory in many places, in many cities. This is again technical system. This is where actually it's a large scale water filtration system where you have many treatment ponds, treatment plants, and then you basically treat the stormwater. Constructed wetland is another type of water sensitive designs. Again, it's a kind of technical design. So I would not expect you to recognize those unless you have backgrounds. How about gardens? Gardens is like on the street or at the corner of the streets. Do you have those? Yes. Have you ever thought of the role of that? Like why do you have a garden or some plants? Beautification, right? So that would be probably, like, it looks good, right? Probably that's one of the reasons. There could be other reasons as well. So sometimes if you select the plants wisely, you can actually also have a water filtration function with these plants, okay? That could actually help in managing the urban water flow. So that's often, these are known as rain gardens. Rainwater tank, is this something familiar here? So this is where you have, especially, what do you call the detached house? Yes. So in Australia, it is quite common where you actually have a tank like this at the back of your detached house. And it stores the rainwater that falls on the roof. And then you can do some filtration and you can actually use it for irrigating your garden. Okay, watering your garden. That's quite common in Australia. I don't know, is it common here?
No, in Japan it's not so common.
It's not so common. Okay, but that is like Australia is one of the dry countries, so that's why we try to use as much or save as much water as possible. This is again another example of how they convert a concrete drain into a natural system, like more naturalized system. So why do we do all these things? Why does it matter? Okay, so we already have talked about some benefits such as recreation. We already have talked about benefits such as biodiversity, aesthetics, all these benefits. But there could be some broader types of benefits. For example, like it could help us conserving water. It could help us mitigating heat, temperature, right, in the urban area. It can help us improving water quality, okay, restore and enhance urban ecosystem, stimulate maybe local communities, okay, and it helps in connecting communities. So all these things are quite beneficial of these kind of projects. But the challenge is, how do we invest? How do we fund for this? Okay, and that's where we have the economics and the management side of it. Okay, so the things that I talked so far is mostly from the engineering, from the environmental science, from like management, water management side. But we also have other aspects, which is economics and management. So in Australia, they started thinking about water sensitive city concepts quite a long time ago. At the beginning, around 1960s, they treat this stormwater runoff as like mainly for protection of human health and property, because the idea is that they will take away water as quickly as possible from the cities. Then in 1993, they reformed the water sector and they started to recognize that the need for more decentralized option, okay, and more integrated option to bring stormwater, drinking water, wastewater management together, okay. You have these different purposes. In 2004, this concept of water-sensitive urban design was first introduced as part of National Water Initiative. And now it is a recognized goal of the Australian water policy or National Water Initiative as part of innovation and capacity building to create water-sensitive Australian cities. So it's now a target or a goal. So then all these in Australia, we have federal government, then we have a state government, and then we have local government, okay? In Japan, you have also federal, no?
Yes, federal, I mean, we have local government and central government.
Local and central government, yes. So in Australia, the implementing this kind of urban design was the responsibility of mainly the local government, okay? Because they look after their own city, like it would be a city, right, here?
City.
Yes. So for example, like in city of Melbourne, they introduced a set of principle and policy on water sensitive design first in 2008, where they said that we need to protect natural water systems in urban development. We need to treat our rainwater and landscape design. We need to improve water quality. We need to reduce surface runoff and peak flow. And we also need to reduce development cost. So they have, first time they came up with some principles related to water sensitive urban design. So if you look at the level in terms of a condition of an area or a city with respect to different levels of water management, you can start from water supply city, that is the bottom. Okay, again, I will describe them, but I will ask you then to identify the area that you are living currently. Is that where does it fit? Okay. So we start with bottom, which is the water supply city, and then we go to towards the top, which is the water sensitive city. Okay. Now, these are the characteristics. So for example, if you have water supply city, it's mainly related to providing good quality water supply access and security. Okay. That is the main purpose. That is the main goal of the water utility or the agency. Then if you go to the next one up, which is the sewer city, then public health protection becomes a major problem, like major target. Okay. Then we go to the drained city, which is the third step. Then flood protection is a major target. So in addition to these two, this is always incremental. So this is adding. Okay. In addition to this bottom two, flood protection becomes a major goal. Then with waterway city, you have social amenity, environmental protection is an additional goal. Okay. Then water cycle city is about recycling, reuse, so limits on water resources. Finally, with water sensitive cities, it is about intergenerational equity, like we have to make the access resources available to current generation as well as future generations, resilience to climate change, resilience to disasters, and all these things. So given these characteristics, where do you think that your area or your city is located? Which of these characteristics you identify most? Yes, please.
Like second level, I can see that.
Sewer city, like public health protection. That's why. Okay. Okay. Yes. Good. Anyone else? How about someone from the back? Can you see from the back, like all these words? Come on, I need at least one more response. Are these terms familiar with you? Is there any term that is not clear to you? Okay, let's start from the top. Have you heard the term intergenerational equity before? Do you know what does it mean? It could be in any other course or anything. No? So this would be, so you understand the term equity, right? Equity is like everybody gets a fair chance. Yeah. It's not about equal outcome. It's about everybody gets the same level of opportunities. Okay. Outcomes could be quite different because that depends on person's skills, person's motivation, all these things. When we are talking about intergenerational, it means from one generation to another generation. For example, us versus our children, or us versus our parents. Okay, so previous generation. So when we say intergenerational equity, we means that all the generations have a fair and equal chance. Okay, it doesn't mean that they will have the same level of income. Their income would be much higher than us, but what we expect that we have the similar level of chance. So that's the intergenerational equity. Okay. How about resilience to climate change? Is that a concept new to you, or is that something you have heard before? No? Yes? Yes? No? Okay. So, but do you know about climate change? Okay, let me go to the basics. Yes? Yeah. So resilience is about how well we are capable to manage the impact of climate change. So resilience is like it could be destroyed, but then how quickly it can get back. Okay, so it's not just about defense, it's about the capacity to recover. Okay, so these are interconnected concepts. So this is related to resilience. So for example, like if an area gets flooded, how quickly it can recover. Okay, so that is part of resilience. All right, so given this, so we are seeing that it's like almost at the level 2, maybe. Farhad, do you have any observation on this? What do you reckon in your area, maybe?
Yeah, so in Japan, so some of these goals are targeting by the local governments, and local governments are responsible for city level, such as water supply or sewage management.
Yes.
However, in some cases, the natural disaster resiliency, city and also more national
level.
Yeah, because we cannot separate when we have a flood, when we have an earthquake, we cannot separate prefectures.
Yes.
Usually damage a more wider regions.
Yes.
Then in some cases it has overlapping.
Yes.
Their responsibility. So, but when we go in higher levels, it would be more national. Or regional.
Yes, yes. You have national level targets, you have national policies, and all these things could influence. Yes, absolutely agree. Yes. Okay. So in Australia, this is in Australia, that major cities have safe drinking water. Okay, safe and secure water supply. So they have more or less achieved that. But enhanced urban amenity outcomes still is lagging in many places. So if I show you the diagram, in many cities in Australia, they would go up to maximum waterway city level. So they have not achieved the top 2. Okay, in many places, actually, they are still in the bottom 2 or 3. So in Australia, it is also lagging behind. So it's not that we have achieved this target. Okay. So what are the implementation challenges? And I was talking about economics and management So one of the issue they have identified is that when the government makes decision, they often do not consider all the social and environmental benefits of these projects, because there is no transparent decision-making process. There is no transparent way to select or prioritize projects, okay? And in many cases, this is actually not a findings, this is not I am saying it, this is something findings of the government itself, that not always the decision have been made in the most robust fashion, okay, where they compare the net benefits of different options. Are you familiar with the term net benefits? Have you heard this term before? Net benefit would be benefit minus cost. That, right? So that would be the net benefit, okay? So in many cases, they actually have not done that analysis. But it is a problem for projects like water sensitive urban design or this kind of social and environmental projects. Why? We have lots and lots of intangible and social benefits, such as aesthetics, as we discussed, recreation. We have improvement in ecology, improvement in biodiversity. We could have influence on managing wastewater. We have benefits in terms of managing water quality. There could be mental and psychological benefit as well, because people are working and that could have an impact on the mortality and morbidity. So all these things could have intangible benefits. But if we do not include these benefits in our cost benefit analysis or decision-making framework, it means that we are ignoring these kind of benefits, okay? And which means that we are under investing or under financing these kind of projects, okay? So that's why development of a robust, comprehensive framework was necessity, okay? And is part of to help Australian government, Australian people to achieve this water sensitive cities target. So that's why my project come into play. So we started working on this project since 2012. Our goal was to develop a comprehensive economic assessment framework, okay, which could help people and the agencies to capture all these different types of benefits and put into a systematic decision framework, okay? Are you familiar with the term cost benefit analysis? Have you heard this term before? No? Okay, so that would be it's very commonly applied in project evaluation, where people or the analysts, they compare costs and benefits of a project, and then they see whether it's actually worth investing in this project or not. So usually if the benefit is greater than the cost, then they say that yes, it is worth investing, okay? But the idea here is that whatever we do, whatever project we implement, the benefit should be greater than cost. Otherwise, it does not make sense, right? So if it is costing us more than the benefit, why would we want to do that, right? So that's the idea. So we have done quite a lot of work. We started with the literature review, and then we developed the tools, and then we tested it, and then we also have applied in real world projects. And people are also applying it now in various projects in Australia. We have lots of things. I would not have time to take you through all of these. But what we have learned, okay, and that's something may not be relevant right now for you, but if you start looking into start talking to people who are making decisions, and then you'll be able to find many of these things are quite related. At the moment in Australia, until recently, they were focusing on the cost effectiveness approach, which means that they were trying to find what is the least cost way to achieve a target, okay? So they have a target, they want to know what is the least cost way. But what we need to focus more on, net benefit. Which option gives us the highest benefit or highest if in a business sense, it's the highest profit. Okay. So we need to focus more on net benefit. Then other thing is that we need to open up, like as decision maker, we need to open up and have a more consultative process, because we are talking about not just physical benefit, we are talking about social benefit, right? All these benefit by received by people. So we need to understand what is their view, what is how much, but what amount they benefit this. And these information come from multiple sources. Then the third point that we have realized and understood is that we need a system thinking approach, okay, which means that we need to recognize that everything is connected to each other. You remember that first slide I showed you, where we have the producers, we have the consumers, but then we have the natural environment surrounding us, right? So we have three elements, main elements. All of these things are connected. If we just focus on consumption, or if we just focus on production, we are going to deplete the environment, okay? On the other hand, if we just focus on environment, then we are going to suffer because we might not have sufficient consumption, good quality consumption. So all these three things need to be balanced. So that's why we need a system thinking approach. Then we need to recognize that many of these projects have actually lots of environmental and social benefits. So these are intangible benefits. We need to recognize them. Okay, and then we need to reduce the cost of decision making. Otherwise, decision makers or the policy makers or the politicians, they have very short period of time. So they do not have time to do lots of rigorous analysis. So we need to help them. Okay, and then we also need to aware of this risk, because like, what is the risk? What is the chance that people actually might misuse it or not use it properly? So all these things we need to factor in, okay? And then we have to avoid common mistakes. Like often we say that, okay, do analysis certain way, but that's actually not helpful. We might be biased, we might have some other things going on. Is it going to be enough? Probably not. What we have found in Australia is that we need to think of what kind of decision-making tools we apply. And I will show you some, and then we can talk about, okay, whether you recognize or whether you are familiar with any of these tools or not. Let's start with the bottom one, which is when you're talking just about water supply, access, and security. What kind of approach do we have? We have the least cost approach, which means that we have a target for water supply. Maybe we have to supply water to 5,000 houses. Our target is, what is the cheapest way we can meet the water demand, right? So that's our least cost approach. Then we go, okay, sorry, I'm going back. Then we go to the public health protection. That's where we have to apply risk-based approach, because what is the probability of contamination? Okay, and how do we minimize that risk of contamination? So these are risk-based approach. For flood protection, we have to combine risk-based approach with the cost-effectiveness approach, because maybe a city is prone to flood once in every 5 years. Okay, now how do we make it once in every 50 years? How do we make it once in every 100 years? So those kind of and then what kind of decision-making approach we need to apply. So that's why we have the risk-based approach. When we talk about environmental protection, social amenity, then we need to start talking about net benefit. We have multiple objectives, we have intangible benefits, all these things we need to factor in, okay? Then when you start talking about system and limits on natural resources, we need to start thinking about system dynamics approach. And because we need to recognize that all these components are interconnected, okay? And how do we make them, how do you understand these interconnections? That is usually through a system dynamic approach. Finally, when you're talking about intergenerational equity, very long time frame, we need to factor in discounting. We need to factor in uncertainties, okay? I'm going with time. Good, okay. All right, so there are lots of terms have been thrown into you. Now let's open the floor Let's see, how familiar are you with these terms? Have you come across these terms before in any of your classes or any of your reading? Or anything is completely new to you, any of these terms? Would I assume that all of you understand all the concepts then, if there is no response? Yes, please.
Actually, I have got after the question.
Yes.
And I was wondering that if if the water problem, for example, the pollution is worse in the very dry places or in the very wet places with a lot of rain, which one is maybe suffer from more pollution or more question? Which one is worse? I want to ask you.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you're asking if there is a wet area and there's lots of pollution, and versus if there is a dry area.
Water pollution is more serious in wet areas or in dry areas.
Okay. So in dry areas, it would be more concentrated because it's in a specific area, right? On the wet areas, it will flow on wider areas. So it depends on the type of pollution. So yes, so for example, like if you have a factory, right, an industry, so it emits, it releases pollutions from a certain source, okay, or local. But if you have agriculture, where you have fertilizers applied in many over a very wide area, then the pollution comes from all these wide areas. So it depends on how the pollution is released. It depends on many factors. Yes, that is true. Yes. Okay. So, all right. So with the, again, let me start from the top. Are you familiar with the term discounting? No? Okay. So discounting would be something when, okay, let me do a thought experiment, okay, with you, all of you, and this is where I need your participation. So I will say that this is a question to you, like, let's say that I will give you, like for free, $100 to, right? Like convert into whatever currency you like, $100 now, okay, versus I will give you $100 in 3 months' time. Which option would you like? Option 1 or option 2? Option 1, $100 right now. Option 2 is $100 in 3 months' time. You have to wait for 3 months. Which option would you like? Option 1, right? Any other volunteer? Anybody would pick option 2? You would pick option 2. Why?
You give me right now, I think it is used to something stupid. So
Okay. Got it. Yeah, so because you have excess money, so you'll waste it. Basically, that's your worry. Let's imagine that no, you don't worry about that. Like you even if I give you money right now, you'll use it wisely. Or if 3 months later, you would use it for something you need. Okay, in both cases. So in that case, which one you would pick? Option 1 or option 2? Option 2 again. Okay. All right. So we have got option 1 and option 2. Anybody else? How about you? Option 1? Yes. All right. So we have three points. Now let me ask this question again. Let's say that I would give you $100 right now. Option 1. Option 2, I will give you $150 in 3 months' time. Okay. You can get $100 now, or you can wait for 3 months and get $150. Which option would you pick? You would pick option 1. Okay, fine. How about you two? You have switched. Now you have switched from option 1 to option 2. Right? Okay, you have not responded in the first time. So first time you would also pick option 1 or option 2. Like when we have $100 now and $100 in 3 months time.
I chose option 1.
Option 1. Okay. So in second option scenarios, you still pick option 1. Okay, good. So we have different response, which is good. So what happens is that, so the discounting means that we value less of future income. Okay. We want to get money right now, immediately. That's the human nature. But we can calculate the level of discounting by seeing exactly like this kind of, asking this kind of questions. So it means that our 2 colleagues at the front, they initially wanted to have $100 right now, but when the value of waiting went up, like it is now $150 if they wait for 3 months, then they switch to option 2. So they are actually willing to wait. Okay, so that's the basic concept behind discounting, like something we want to have it right now. Why do you want to have it right now? You can ask that question as well. Imagine that you get $100 right now. Okay, if you have a bank account, you can save. If you have that money, you can invest in something. You can buy some stocks. That would give you some extra income, right? If you wait for 3 months, you do not have the money, so you cannot get that extra income, right? So that's why when people have the money, immediately they have a lot more options. Okay, that's why. So one is the opportunity cost of time. Other one is the investment options, lots of options. So for all these reasons, discounting is a very crucial concept in economics and in decision making, because that's how we make decisions in our private life as well as in public decision making. Okay. All right. So I'm almost finished with my lectures, and last few things is at a national level, more at a like a federal level. So in order to achieve the sustainable communities and sustainable cities, in order to achieve these water sensitive urban designs, we have to, in Australian case at least, we have identified few strategies that we need to implement. We need to strengthen government policy support. Okay, we need to invest more in community outcomes. We need to improve system level accountability, right? So everybody has to be responsible. And then we have to provide incentives, okay? Incentives for the decision makers, incentives for the private sector, okay? So these are incentives that we need to provide. And then we have to make the decision easy by providing information system, by providing decision support system. Okay, all these things we need to do so that we can achieve a sustainable communities and cities and achieve our sustainable development goals. That is it. Thank you very much. Thanks for your participation. See you.